Ladies and gentlemen, as always, I'm your host, AirsoftAL, and welcome to our media reviews. Chapter 28, Lions Led by Donkeys. So, Democrats, apparently. America into the World has just dropped, so let me break it down for you. Recap. The Magus soldiers, the 300, of course, have prepared an ambush, dropped two buildings onto essentially Panzer IIs, and even destroyed a third one with essentially grenades and sniper fire. In this one, we're going to see the outcome of yet another absolutely brain-numbingly idiotic move. I said in the last video that because there's no tank crews to actually provide ample actual artillery support, they could be used as anti-tank guns, and my suspicions were confirmed. For this chapter, prepare for guerrilla warfare and absolute curb stomping and egos being deflated. So let me break it down for you. I already said that, but still, let's get into it. So, Arya, I'm going to be calling her that, even though her name is A-R-A. Arya? Either way, though. Basically, Lieutenant General, Elf, whatever. You know, I'm just going to call her Zoran because I kind of see her as that, as like a Zoran Blitz type character. Let's just call her that. So, this woman essentially decides, you know what, let's just try again.
You can't be this stupid! You can't!
Of course you would. So, the tanks start moving in, by the way, nice little thing about the offer, he has basically called these tanks what they kind of are. You have Stallions, which are, of course, the Panzer IIs, or if you want to go further, Panzer IIIs. And then you have the Knights, which are the Panthers or King Panthers. And, by God, I love this. I really do. For a number of reasons, but we'll get to later on. Anyway. They start moving into the city, which, of course, because if the first time you didn't learn your lesson, obviously the second time you'll go better.
Did I ever tell you what the definition of insanity is? Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again, expecting shit to change. That is crazy.
Thank you, boss. Anyway, they move in and then immediately come under fire. The Stallions are somewhat damaged a bit by the 75mm cannons that they have, but the 75mm does not exactly do shit against a Panzer II or Panzer III armor, which is sort of sloped. That's why you don't attack frontal armor, you usually attack from the sides or the rear, because, you know, less armor, I'm just saying. Either way, though. So, the Magus are otherworldly Frenchmen. Decide, if that doesn't work, go bigger. I must have learned something from the Americans, because that's kind of our answer. If at first you don't succeed, use a bigger gun. So, what do they have in store for our little Nazi elf bastards? 155mm freedom.
Of course!
I'm not joking on this. I loved the fact that they used 155mm shells. And the fact that they position them in a point where, you know, we're just going to look straight ahead. Because I love this. I love the fact that the author is in fact showing that just because a tank is powerful and absolutely beastly does not mean it's gonna be great. The only reason that our modern tanks are a little bit better in urban combat is because of modern optics and even the ability to have 360-degree directional awareness, as well as supportive infantry forces. Here, they're just sending in tanks with no infantry support, no awareness whatsoever, and zero to no intel on enemy positions. They only know that there are snipers, and that's it. So what happens? They lose more tanks. They literally get blasted to hell. And what I gotta love is that the commander finally understands the position she is in. She straight up says that they cannot take this town without infantry support.
No shit, Sherlock!
finally, some common goddamn sense. And for a lot of you out there who probably have played enough Battlefield games to understand the idea of actually just blasting the hell out of buildings, she brings up another good point when asked, why don't they just blast the buildings to pieces? Well, number one, you're going to create more cover because, that's more cover and more places to hide if, guerrilla warfare hasn't been figured out already. And number two, a waste of ammunition. Because if you go in there just blasting every single building you can and you got, you're going to run low on ammunition, and you're not going to have the actual ammo to be able to do damn near anything. Moving on. So they wait the day. And while they're waiting, the defenders are preparing for everything else. They're literally, unlike most people, these Frenchies, or otherworldly Frenchies, are not sitting idly by. The Magus are preparing for another attack. They're repositioning cannons, they're getting everything prepared, even more booby traps, which I absolutely love! And then the other asshole shows up.
How many assholes we got on this ship anyhow? Yo! I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
Another asshole, who apparently is just... Yeah, I'm not even going to address this guy by rank or even by name because my... okay, maybe by rank. Colonel Dumbass. That's how I'm going to call him by. I'm going to call him Colonel Dumbass. Or, I'm not even going to call him Colonel, I'm just going to call him Captain Dumbass, because he's literally a dumbass. But we do get a nice little bit of insight into the Elven society. The first introduction of the actual Lieutenant General, this female elf, into essentially the higher ranking officers, is we're actually showing that the elf society is not all that equal or all that advanced. Here's the thing. One of the best parts is that when she's introduced, the actual response is from this asshole, essentially, is, "A woman? Huh. Oh my goodness, a woman! Oh boy, what are we going to attack the enemy with muffins and I just can't. I'm sorry, guys. This is just too damn stupid. Okay, it's both stupid and understandable at the same time, especially for a lot of you who are probably up in fucking arms right now saying, how is it understandable? Why is sexism acceptable? Shut the fuck up and let me explain. Here's the thing. No matter how advanced a society will be, there will still be old world conventions still lying about. This is the same thing with any sort of advanced society, especially during World War II. While, yes, the Russians and the communists, well, yes, you had female combat battalions, they didn't really use them all that much. They didn't really see any point in them. They used them purely for propaganda purposes. It wasn't until war broke out they realized, oh, women can fight just as good as men, so yes, we'll let women fight alongside our men. A good example is Fighting Girlfriend, the T-34 tank that was literally bought by a widow and literally wanted to fight the fascists, and she even wrote personally to Stalin. Moving on. Actually, before we move on, seriously, look up Fighting Girlfriend's story. It is so it's so heartbreaking and so heartwarming, but at the same time, Communist Society! Just Soviet Union! Yeah. Moving on. Moving on. Nazi Germany, once again, is another good example. Even though they did have female officers, even though they did have, some female military personnel, they weren't combat units. Yeah. However, the only good example of a pure equal society and military society is Israel, where during the 6-Day War there was in fact female soldiers who racked up a lot of kills, alongside their male counterparts, and both sides fought viciously, both men and female soldiers in Israel. But granted, that's Israel, that is the Jewish state, so we're not going to compare them to the rest of the world, because let's face it, they're fucking badass. So going back to World War II standards, or if I go back to the story. Now, what I do love is that even though in this elf society, it is confirmed that essentially there are female combat officers, or at least there are female combat soldiers. However, they aren't really there for that long of a time, they're only there for a short stint. So essentially, I'm guessing they're there as conscripts and not really there for career soldiering. Very few, if not rare apparently, are there for career soldiering and actually get to the high-ranking officers' positions, which is why we see the current well, female general, essentially, or at least a lieutenant general. And apparently she actually wrote a few strategies and is well respected. So, you know what? Even though you are the enemy, I somewhat respect you. But again, just because a society is advanced and claims equality, doesn't mean they are equal. It's just apparently some are more equal than others. Back to the present time. So, Captain Dumbass is literally scoffing at her and asking why they haven't taken the town. And immediately is like, oh, you can't handle a few humans? What woman? I will show you how a man does it. Panzer boy. And immediately gets his ass kicked. I'm not joking on this. Even though they do inflict some casualties on the defenders, they don't inflict a lot. Because, once again, they don't have any sort of understanding of urban combat. And I gotta love it. Because, once again, tanks in general, I know I've said this in the last review of the last chapter, but it needs to be restated. Tanks do not work good in urban combat without infantry support. Tanks are only good in open plains and against other tanks and or fortifications. Tanks are a support vehicle at the most, not an offensive vehicle against infantry or urban combat. You dumbasses. Seriously, do these elves not understand basic combat? Or, you know what? I'm not even going to say anything to try and help these fuckers because they're Nazi elves. Why the fuck would I help these guys? But, either way though, the combat lasts a good while, and the kill count, mind you. Let me go ahead and look up the kill count here on my phone. Captain Dumbass loses 16 stallions, essentially Panzer IIs and Panzer IIIs, and 7 knights, which essentially are Panthers and or King Panther tanks.
Auf Wiedersehen, Schweinhund!
And what I gotta love? I gotta love this. The interaction between the general and the lieutenant colonel, yes, that's his actual rank as lieutenant colonel, was this. So how'd that go for you? Shut up!
First time.
Yo, woman, you don't understand. A little bit of ego, methinks. But what I gotta love is this. Is that after the battle, a colonel comes over from the Magus. He comes up to, of course, the commanding officer of the current 300, which is now down to 200 soldiers defending this town and holding a line. He tells him that essentially the bridge will not be blown and the military is being reorganized to do a counteroffensive. So, Counter-Strike? I mean, you're essentially facing up against the Ghost Division. I mean, don't get me wrong. Yes, they have a good position, and yes, they could defend a little bit more, but going on the offensive is going to be a little bit more difficult because your tanks aren't exactly good. Your version of the Maginot Line had fallen, essentially. So, how could they pull this off? We'll get to in a minute. But the best part is that this captain actually gives a speech. And I am going to do my best to repeat it in the most French accent possible. Men, do you know what is behind us? The Verena is. Our brothers in arms are preparing for a counterattack. If we fail, our country falls. Remember that. The captains and I have agreed to stay here to the end. Are you willing to stay with us? Vive la Magos! Vive la France!
Vive la France! Vive la démocratie!
Like, seriously, I can just imagine if this was played out as a scene in an actual web series where the French national anthem was playing behind him as he was giving the speech, and it was literally like, not Les Miserables, like fucking Casablanca, essentially. Either way, though. But yeah, The chapter ends with just that. So, now comes the question. How is this counteroffensive going to work? Well, considering the most, what they could do is this, and I'm just saying this as a speculatory nature. The way they could actually handle this is essentially a defensive line, where they actually set up the cannons not in a arcing for actual or indirect fire, but actually use it as direct fire, actual anti-tank guns. 155mm is proven to be very effective not only against the Elf Panzer IIs and Panzer IIIs, but also against the Panthers and King Panthers. Granted, 155mm is not really going to be stopped by a lot, because, again, 155mm, pretty big cannon round. It's a pretty big round. So if they wanted to, they could actually set up defensive lines all the way on the outside of the city, moving the cannons to actually act as, well, much like in a game of World of Tanks, long-range sniping. I cannot believe I fucking said that. It's been a long time since I played World of Tanks, but, you know, either World of Tanks or War Thunder, where that one asshole is basically sitting behind way back at the spawn and he's just sniping you from long distances. Sound off in the comments section if you've ever been annoyed by that asshole, because believe me, I sure have, and I've always been pissed. Just that one asshole basically sitting right back at the fucking spawn, sniping people because of course there's no fucking cover and it's nothing but wide open terrain because fuck you!
Oh, you fucking camping bitch!
It's a legitimate strategy!
No. Another way they could actually handle the situation is, well, besides, of course, the defensive line, is actually draw the enemy into the town and use the town's cover and actual geography to whittle down the numbers, until such times when the defensive line can be turned into an offensive line. The best offense is a good defense, and that is something that has always been said. Now, what could be done behind the scenes to help out the MAGAs? Well, of course, America could actually get involved if, you know, they actually got involved. This is America, another world. Where the hell's America in all this? You're telling me that America is... They know about these guys, they know about the Nazis, and you're telling me we haven't gotten involved?
Bullshit! Bullshit!
I think that's kind of our motto. I think that's kind of our country principle is, if it's a Nazi, we will kill a Nazi. I don't think we'd just be sitting back at the front, way back, not doing a damn thing. That ain't how we work. That's definitely not how we work. We work by kicking ass, taking names. Where the hell are we? Where the hell's America? Where is our boys coming in to kick ass and take names? Where's our boys at? Come on. Come on, Ron. When's America going to get involved? Come on. And finally, the biggest one would be that if they were to actually create a secondary Maginot line through out of this town, it would have to be a rushed job, meaning that they could use magic to actually make hardened defenses, hardened walls, siege walls, essentially, and create emplacements through magic to try and, well, essentially, make better weapons to defeat these Panzers and King Panthers, and or Panther tanks. Could this happen? Well, that would be a lot of time and research to be put into that sort of thing. But as long as they can hold out and they can try and at least get help from the outside world, because, again, they're getting blitzkrieg pretty hard. They need America's help on this, or at least they need an outsider's help in all this. They need some ally to basically come and fight with them. Speaking of which, didn't the elves already know about America? Don't they kind of know about that? Aren't they going to do something to America? I'm just sitting here like that meme with the stick, just poking at it, going like, come on, do something. That's me right now with America. It's like, come on. I know we're occupying two nations at the moment, trying to help rebuild them, but come on, do something. Either way. So what I think of this chapter, I think it's amazing. I absolutely love the depiction of actual urban combat and how urban combat is much stark difference between actual open ground combat. This is definitely a good thing to look at, especially through the eyes of, essentially, this is another world. They have not had urban combat like America has, or at least how our world has. good examples are, of course, what happened in France, or even on the offensive into the Ardennes, Bastogne, even the Battle of Berlin. Even in Italy, we were fighting in urban sectors that actually were just absolute hellholes. Even fighting in the mountains. And then after that, we had Korea, and then the biggest one for us, especially Vietnam. Vietnam was a hell of an urban combat zone. And while, yes, many of you may try to bring up Afghanistan, no, honey, no. Vietnam was a hell of a lot worse than Afghanistan when it comes to urban combat. Trust me on that. I know my grandpa's stories because he fought in urban combat in Vietnam, and he basically would always say that Vietnam was worse than Afghanistan. And so I'm basically going off that. Either way, though. So, I'm looking forward to the next chapter, and you can bet your bonnets, and bullets, and guns, that I'm going to review that one also. I'm really looking forward to it, and once again, another great chapter. I hope you guys enjoyed the chapter also, and let me know down in the comments section what you thought of the chapter, and the nice little bits of societal, into, like us being able to look into Elven society, which I say Elven society, but I really do hope they finally get a name of the Elven Reich, or at least the Elf Reich, because again, they're fucking Nazis. There's gonna be a Reich in there somewhere, or at least something. Either way, though. Thank you all for watching. As always, I've been AirsoftAL, the Commons Airsofter, who reviews online novels, because I really don't have any guns to review at the moment, or really anything at the moment to review. So, till next time, I will see you lovely, lovely people in the next video. Till next time. Later!